What do you want to confess about your life? Story 1. My husband and I recently started incorporating intimacy accessories after I confessed I wasn't able to reach climax from penetration alone. Our first item was a massage wand, and it has been a great addition. Yesterday, he bought a dual-action massager, and we used it last night. As I laid on my stomach, he massaged and gently caressed me all over. He teased me through my clothing as he left soft kisses and playful bites down my back. Between the sensation of the vibrations and his touch, I was overwhelmed. I couldn't help but move with the rhythm of the device as he held it and watched. Knowing he was watching as I reacted made it even more intense. After reaching climax multiple times, he turned me over with the device still in place and slowly joined in. I couldn't form one coherent thought. Between his movements and the stimulation, I felt completely overwhelmed again and truly thought I couldn't take any more. This morning when I woke up, I felt a mix of emotions because of how intense and experimental the experience was. It was one of my favorite moments we've shared. I've been encouraging him to explore more with me, but now that we've taken this step, I feel conflicted. Story 2. Some background is necessary. My husband and I have been together since high school. We had a brief phase when we were younger where I would call him a certain nickname during our private conversations. At one point, his father looked through his phone and read a lot of our messages, a truly uncomfortable situation, and even pointed out that specific nickname to my husband, then boyfriend. I think he even made a joke later about it. I never used that nickname again and we never discussed it. It was incredibly awkward and we both pretended like it never happened. It's been over 10 years now, we haven't brought it up, and I still cringe at the thought of using that term again in any context. The other day we were joking about my mental health. I'm doing well, everything is under control. My husband joked that he would never have me committed. He would just keep me at home and care for me. And while he was clearly joking, he playfully said something like, "Who's my special girl?" My reaction surprised me. I found it unexpectedly arousing. I'm not even sure it's something I'd want to explore in real life, because it still feels too awkward to me, but it really caught me off guard. That comment, combined with the playful idea of being cared for in a protective way, really sparked something in my mind. It reminded me of that movie A Dangerous Method, where a psychiatrist uses unconventional therapy to help a patient feel better. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I haven't told him that it affected me. I don't know what he would think, and I'm not sure I want to encourage anything like that again. It's all still tied to that uncomfortable past experience involving his father, which makes it feel confusing and taboo. I can't tell if he was just joking or if he was subtly reintroducing that idea. Is this a side of me I should just leave unexplored, especially since it could bring up old, unpleasant memories for both of us? Story 3. I, 18M, and my girlfriend, 18F, of 8 months in a healthy, committed relationship, had us for the first time yesterday. We were both new to this, and this week we shared our first intimate experiences together. It started a few days ago with me exploring touch and building intimacy, and things progressed quickly until we were ready to be fully together yesterday. The night before, we talked about boundaries over FaceTime. She told me hers and I told her mine. We also came up with a safe word, Honda, for her to use if she ever felt uncomfortable or needed to stop. 15 minutes into the experience, during a moment when we were in missionary position, she suddenly went quiet. She usually enjoys a mix of gentle and more intense connection, and I was being more intense at that point. It seemed like she was enjoying it at first. Then she went silent for about 30 seconds, and I didn't realize the expression on her face showed distress. She was holding her mouth and shaking. After I finished, I pulled out, took off the protection, and she started crying. That's when I instantly realized I should have stopped earlier. I just didn't know. She told me she was overstimulated and that it had started to become uncomfortable. She didn't want to stop because she saw that I was close and didn't want to ruin the moment for me. I told her how sorry I was. I was also in shock and at a loss for words. I should have noticed she wasn't okay and should have stopped immediately. We cuddled the rest of the night and went to bed, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. My anxiety has been through the roof for the past 14 hours and I feel sick to my stomach. I broke down crying while driving home after dropping her off. I thought our communication was strong, but clearly I missed something. I leave for USMC boot camp in 6 days, and I need to find peace with myself before I go. She seemed okay afterward, but I don't know if she's trying to hide how she really feels. Story 4. I've been going through a lot of stress lately. I've gained some weight, not at an unhealthy level, but not where I used to be. It's made me feel really self-conscious. I haven't been physically intimate in over 3 years, maybe even 4. There's someone I've been talking to recently, and I feel like I ruined it. In my last relationship, my ex used my insecurities against me. He called me names, said no one would ever want me. One time, after a very intense and frightening moment, I woke up to him laughing and telling me that everything I feared about myself was true. That was over 6 years ago. I thought I had healed. I tried taking some confident photos, like shower selfies, or recording a short video I could grab screenshots from when I felt good. But all the things he said came rushing back. I couldn't even bring myself to send a simple photo to this new guy. I want this man more than I can explain. He's been patient, respectful, and kind. I finally told him tonight to stop trying. He's always been considerate of how I feel about my body. He tried to lift me up, and I hate that I pushed him away. I hate what my ex did to me even more. How can I rebuild my confidence? I know I need to work on the physical side to feel better in my own skin, but how do I rebuild my connection with my inner self? I enjoy intimacy. I love being able to please the person I'm with. I enjoy giving affection and receiving it and being truly connected. I miss feeling desirable and empowered. I wanted this man so badly and I pushed him away. Do you have any advice on how I can return to a healthy, confident space with myself, so I can be the passionate and confident woman I know is inside me? I want to show up for someone the way they show up for me. I want to let myself be fully present and bold in the moment. Please be gentle. I'm already being hard enough on myself. Story 5. We're a couple in our late 30s, have been together since our early 20s, and we don't have kids. I gained weight over the past 10 years, and for the last 7 to 8 years, my interest in intimacy was basically gone. We went from being physically active 2 to 3 times every day we saw each other to just once every 2 to 3 months for nearly 8 years. Recently, I lost over 60 pounds, and my drive is fully back. But now, almost every time we're intimate, she experiences discomfort that sometimes lasts for days. The most difficult position is the one we used to enjoy the most. But now she says it causes pain even with slow and gentle movements. I don't feel anything unusual or different, like what I've read about in certain cases. So I'm confused. During the first 5 years together, our intimacy was frequent and even rough at times, but she always described it as enjoyable or a good kind of intense. That's why I'm wondering if something else might be happening. I've tried using extra lubricant, but it hasn't helped. It's frustrating to finally have the desire and the energy back, both of us wanting to reconnect, but then have that experience lead to pain for her. Could it be that this is just a result of the weight loss and slight physical changes? Or is there something else that might be going on? Another thing I've noticed is that her skin seems more sensitive now, like her nipple can get irritated from even mild friction during intimacy. Years ago, she used to enjoy more intense stimulation, and it never caused this kind of reaction. All of this has me overthinking, wondering if there's something else going on medically or emotionally, or if these changes are connected. I'm trying to be supportive, but I can't help but question everything. Is it just sensitivity, or is there more I should be aware of? Story 6. Apologies for the long post and explanation. I've been married to my wife for just over 3 years. We're both over 250 pounds, but otherwise healthy. At the beginning of our marriage, she didn't feel comfortable with me being physically affectionate in certain ways. That was completely fine. I never wanted to pressure her, especially since I have a sensitive sense of smell and taste, particularly when not dealing with allergies. So I wasn't in a hurry to explore that. Earlier this year, though, in a moment of passion, I started kissing her all over and asked if I could continue in a more intimate way. She agreed, and I began gently touching her while exploring further. I really enjoyed the experience, and she seemed to enjoy it too. She even reached a mild climax. It was the first time I'd ever done something like that, and while I wouldn't call it expert level, the fact that she felt pleasure made me feel proud and happy. I'm fully aware that everyone has their own natural scent and taste, and being plus size can mean a bit more body odor, especially with warmth and friction. That first time was ideal. She had just showered and there wasn't really any odor. But the next day when I tried again, the experience was completely different. The scent and taste were much stronger, and I reflexively gagged. She laughed about it at the time, and we still joke about it now, but the truth is, I haven't tried again since. I still very much want to explore that connection with her, but I also don't want to feel like I have to ask her to shower every time. I know over time I'll probably adjust to her natural scent, but as I said earlier, I have heightened sensitivity when it comes to taste and smell. I'm looking for advice or ideas on how to make this experience more comfortable and enjoyable for me, without taking away from the moment or making her feel self-conscious. I've read about flavored products and plan to try that, but I'm wondering if there's anything else I can do, practices or techniques, to help me get to a place where I can fully enjoy that part of our intimacy again. Story 7. So, my personal preference or fantasy is something that's physically impossible in real life. It can be talked about and imagined, but it can't actually happen. It's unusual, but harmless. While it's considered a type of fantasy, it also feels emotionally significant to me. It started when I was very young and became a deep part of who I am. Sharing it with my wife and even engaging in the imaginative side of it would be a big boost in terms of intimacy and vulnerability. But it's not something essential, and I wouldn't feel guilty if I kept it to myself forever. Maybe with this new chapter of my life, this old fantasy will naturally fade and be replaced by new experiences. We already share emotional and physical closeness, and our connection doesn't involve this specific idea. I can live without it, even though I think about it often when it comes to her and find myself daydreaming. I really do want to tell her, but I'm afraid she'll find it strange, or maybe laugh, which could affect our closeness. The fantasy is very much rooted in a submissive dynamic, with me being in that role, and she tends to enjoy a more dominant energy from me, so that adds another layer of hesitation. I'm scared that if I tell her, the image might stay in her mind forever. I've hidden it for so long because of shame, but now with my wife, I want to be honest. That's why I'm asking for advice. Should I tell her? And if so, how do I share something that feels so personal, yet not necessarily uncommon? To explain, I imagine being extremely small and held gently in her hand, kissed tenderly. I imagine scenarios where she's much larger than me, towering above buildings, looking down at me in a protective or playful way. I imagine hugging her ankle, being carried in her pocket, completely safe and close to her. I feel so drawn to every part of her, body and soul, and imagining myself close to her in this fantastical way feels incredibly meaningful. Being held, even powerfully, by her imagined presence charms me deeply. Story 8. We've been dating for 6 months, and the intimacy has been amazing. She told me I'm the best she's ever had. She happens to be one of the lucky people who can experience multiple intense moments quickly. She can reach 3 to 5 in just a few minutes, but only during actual physical intimacy. She doesn't respond the same way to other forms of connection. On the other hand, I don't usually finish that quickly during intercourse. So at the end of our time together, she usually helps me finish with a mix of physical affection using her hands or mouth. During our moments when she's having her third or fourth intense wave, she sometimes asks me to finish at the same time so we can share that moment together. But usually I'm not close to being there yet. I also don't want her to hold back for my sake, so I pretend. I tell her I finished too, even though I haven't, and I've never told her that I've been pretending. After that, I remove the protection and quickly throw it away before she notices that it's empty. Then she usually continues helping me, thinking I just want to feel close again. I read somewhere that when both partners experience that peak together, it can create a strong emotional and physical bond. But since I've been pretending, I worry I've been faking that connection. I don't know whether I should tell her the truth or not. I don't want to make her feel hurt or change how she views our connection. I don't want to damage the amazing chemistry we already have. I'm just wondering what the right thing is to do in this situation. Story 9. I'm 18 million and just got out of a 3-year relationship. She, 19F, was my first, and for the first year we were very active together, about 5 to 7 times a week. Then out of nowhere, it just stopped. I'm pretty sure she was unfaithful and never told me, but that's beside the point. For the last 2 years, intimacy was rare, once every couple of months. Physical affection like kissing, cuddling, or anything similar barely happened. And when it did, it felt like she was only doing it so I wouldn't leave. Because of how infrequent everything became, I never got used to it again, and I started finishing quickly. I lost all the confidence I had during that first year. Now I've reconnected with my childhood best friend, 18F, and she's been helping me process the breakup. She knows I'm not ready for another relationship anytime soon and respects that. She listens when I need to talk and has been really supportive through all the emotional fallout. We've always had a strong history, and I'm visiting my hometown in a few weeks. She wants to book a hotel room and have some drinks, and it's pretty clear we might end up being together that night. The thing is, she's more experienced than me. I've only been with one person, and she's been with at least 5. She keeps telling me I give off a confident, bold energy and that I seem like I'm great at it. But after the last 2 years, I feel like I've lost my edge. Also, I've only used protection before, and she mentioned having a sensitivity to certain types, which makes me nervous because I tend to finish quicker without it. She says she's totally okay with taking things slow and even doing it a few times to help me rebuild confidence. But I can't help but feel like I'm being treated like a charity case. I don't know. I'm tall, in good shape, make decent money, and I've been told I'm attractive. But when it comes to this, I feel unsure. She really thinks highly of me and even said I'm dreamy, but I don't want to let her down. So what can I do to make sure I don't disappoint her? How do I last longer or, at the very least, make the experience feel meaningful, even if it's brief? I could use some advice here. Story 10. I, 29F, have been with my fiancé, 27M, for over 6 years now. We're best friends. We share the same hobbies, we enjoy gaming and watching shows together, and we really like each other's company. He's more on the reserved side when it comes to intimacy, and we were each other's first. But I've always believed that connection is about learning and communicating, and he's very responsive to feedback. Now, to address something more personal that makes me feel conflicted and maybe even a bit guilty. He's about average in size and can reach the right spot only when I'm in a certain position. No matter how many variations we try, that's the one that consistently works best for me, but I don't want to be limited to one position forever. I don't experience that same intensity from other types of stimulation anymore. I really prefer the deeper connection that comes with penetration. Honestly, I enjoy reading certain stories that explore a more intense physical experience, and it's hard not to wonder about what I might be missing. I don't want to end this relationship. I love him deeply, but sometimes I can't stop thinking about experiences I've never had. I know it's not about size alone. He's average, not small, but part of me wishes for more, and that makes me feel like a bad person, especially when I hear others talk about what they experience, and I wonder what that would be like. I've been researching different ways to enhance our connection, exploring new positions, suggesting role play, or inviting more intensity into the bedroom. But he's so kind and gentle that it's hard to shift the dynamic. I'm scared that these differences might eventually create distance, especially since we're about to get married and this could be forever. I'm sharing this here because I really need advice. How do I stop myself from longing for something I haven't had? How do I stay fulfilled with what I have and appreciate it fully without letting my mind drift into what-ifs? I truly care about him and want this to work. I just need help finding peace with it all. Story 11. Recently, my husband, 43 million, and I, 34 female, have experienced some significant shifts in our relationship. We've been married for almost 13 years, have always been completely monogamous, and our intimacy has been relatively traditional. Over the past year or two, things have changed, and as a result, we've started communicating more openly. It turns out we were both holding back some pretty major personal fantasies. He shared a few of his that leaned into more adventurous territory, and I felt comfortable and surprisingly excited enough to share some of mine. One of my main interests is exploring my sexuality further and possibly watching or even joining him with another woman. He's also shown some curiosity about swinging or seeing me with another man, though he's less certain about that than I am about the other idea, and that's completely fine with me. He's very supportive of me exploring with other women, and the idea of a threesome really excites both of us. We've agreed that none of this is something we have to do. It's more of a shared curiosity. Our main rule is open communication. If either of us feels uncomfortable at any point, everything stops. I'm feeling good about our communication and confident in the strength of our relationship to explore this safely. But honestly, I have no idea how to turn this from a fantasy into something real. I'd love to hear from anyone who's done something like this and has advice on how to explore these new experiences while still being respectful to my husband and to anyone else involved. Are there things I'm not considering? What are some safe, respectful ways to meet people with similar interests? This isn't something we're rushing into overnight. I never thought this would even be on the table, so I don't have any real-life experience or knowledge on how to navigate it. The last thing I want is for our exploration to hurt him, me, or anyone else. I truly want this journey to bring us closer, not further apart. Story 12. So, I could probably write a full book explaining the background, but I'll try to be concise. I'm a 40 million and my wife is 41F. She has a range of medical and behavioral health challenges that have made intimacy difficult over the last few years. We haven't been physically intimate in about 3 months, and even when we are, it's often hard for her to fully enjoy the experience, despite my best efforts and patience. Even before these health issues, she's always had a complicated relationship with physical affection. She's never really seen it as a positive or exciting thing. She also finds certain things off-putting, like the idea of giving me physical affection of a more direct nature. I believe a lot of this is related to her OCD, which is quite intense. For example, she finds certain bodily functions unappealing, which adds to the challenge. For me, it's frustrating. I have a high drive and feel more emotionally balanced and focused when that part of my relationship is active. Still, I've tried to be supportive and patient, recognizing her challenges and limitations. But I won't lie, I sometimes daydream about what life would be like if I had a partner who shared my level of interest in intimacy. A few nights ago, I had a very vivid dream. In it, I was meeting a woman I didn't recognize. There was no connection to anyone I know in real life. It was something like a casual meetup, like one you'd find through a marketplace app. Out of nowhere, it turned into a surprisingly intense moment. The dream ended with a very real and powerful release, and I actually woke up in the middle of it. It was the first time in over a decade that something like this has happened to me. I can't stop thinking about it. I didn't even know something like that could happen at my age. I'm guessing it's the result of long-term frustration and unmet needs. I know some people might wonder why I'm still in a relationship that feels this mismatched. And the truth is, it's because I love her deeply. I'm committed to her, and I believe in supporting her through these health struggles. But moments like these shake me a little. They make me question things even though I don't want to. I just needed to put this out there. Thanks for letting me share it. Story 13. For context, I'm 24NB and have been with my boyfriend, 22M, for about 3 years. I really enjoy certain types of intimacy, and I usually need a lot of foreplay to reach a high level of satisfaction. My boyfriend has some sensory sensitivities. He doesn't even particularly enjoy receiving that kind of attention himself. I know there's nothing wrong with how I taste or smell. I take care of myself, eat well, and have never had issues in that area. I also know from past experiences and that he didn't engage in this with former partners either, so it's clearly not a personal issue. We usually stick to traditional intimacy, which I don't mind too much, though I prefer things to be slightly more intense or adventurous than he does. Still, I really miss certain types of stimulation. I know he doesn't enjoy it, it's just not something that feels right for him, and I fully respect that. But I find myself thinking about it a lot. I miss the sensation, and while I know it might be awkward to say, it's been difficult not to have it in my life. Toys don't quite replace it either. I feel very conflicted because we're monogamous, and I know I wouldn't seek that experience outside of our relationship unless he were comfortable with it, which I don't think he would be. I even feel guilty just for wanting it. We did try once early in our relationship using a flavored product designed to make things more comfortable, but I didn't feel much from it. It just didn't replicate the sensation. I've gone without it for 3 years, and it's not something I need to survive, but it's still on my mind. Am I wrong for still thinking about it or desiring something I know I can't ask for? Story 14. Hi, so I'm 18F and my new first boyfriend, 21M, and I have been trying to be intimate, but we're struggling with penetration. We're both inexperienced, and I know that can play a big part. But after about a month of trying and several attempts, it's still not working. It's becoming frustrating because we've tried different positions, using and not using lubricant, with and without protection. We also do a lot of preparation beforehand so I can try to relax. I've even tried to gradually get used to it on my own, like inserting fingers while alone. But I can't go beyond a couple of centimeters. The same thing happens when we try together. Only a little bit goes in, and that's it. I feel a stretching sensation, but he says he doesn't feel much except that it seems like my body is pushing him out. I went to a gynecologist, and she explained that the psychological side is extremely important. She said that if I feel anxious or tense, even if I think I'm relaxed, it can prevent things from working physically. She also asked if I had experienced anything traumatic, which I have. There was a past experience that, while it didn't involve full physical harm, still left an emotional impact. The doctor said that even if I feel safe now, those past feelings can linger subconsciously and affect me. She also mentioned that some people naturally have a thicker or tighter hymen, which might be the case for me. I think that could be a factor too. I'm just feeling confused and overwhelmed, and I really want to find a way forward that feels safe and respectful for both of us. Story 15. My boyfriend, 22, and I, 24, have been intimate for about a year and a half. But from the beginning, I haven't been fully satisfied. He didn't last very long, and the overall experience was a bit too gentle for me. Since I opened up about not feeling fully fulfilled, he's really tried his best, and things have improved. He lasts longer now, and most of the time we have at least 2 rounds. But I don't know, I'm starting to think about it more often. I'm very happy with my boyfriend overall, but it feels like we approach intimacy differently. I would love to be physically close multiple times a day and actually reach climax, which I haven't yet with him. I want to feel so exhausted afterward that neither of us can continue, and I really wish he enjoyed more forms of stimulation. He's usually satisfied with once a day, and when I suggest a 3rd time, he often says no. Still, since we had our talk, he's made an effort to help me feel more satisfied. So my question is for anyone who's been in a similar situation or has worked on building their partner's interest in intimacy, does it get better? Are there ways to help him build up his interest or stamina? Story 16. I have a challenge I've been struggling with for the past year, and I'm hoping someone can offer advice. I'm 19 years old and have been in a relationship with my girlfriend, 18, for almost a year. We both have a strong connection and are physically close every time we see each other. For me, the experience has been great, and I feel confident during it, except for one thing. My girlfriend has never had a climax. I'm her first partner, and I've tried everything I can think of. I've watched educational videos and read advice, but nothing has worked. The closest we've gotten was when I was gently stimulating her, and she began shaking, but she didn't seem to reach that full release. When I use my hands, she sometimes releases a significant amount of fluid, but it doesn't seem like she's reaching that peak moment. I've tried asking her to guide me or tell me what feels best, but she says everything feels good and doesn't know how to explain it further. When I use direct touch, she sometimes asks me to stop because she says it feels weird. I've asked whether it's painful or pleasant, and she always says she's not sure. It's just a strange feeling. We tend to be more energetic in our connection, and when I ask if she enjoys it, she says it's amazing. But I still struggle with believing that since I haven't been able to help her experience what I hope to. Still, she initiates often, so I assume she enjoys it on some level. I love this girl deeply and want to be the one who helps her explore and grow. But this has caused me to doubt myself and lowered my confidence. I've tried bringing it up, but she's not comfortable talking about it and even finds the idea of self-exploration uncomfortable. I'm not sure what else I can do and hope someone out there might have some advice. Story 17. Hi, I'm 19F and I've been physically active for about 2 years and on birth control since then. When I first started, my first partner could barely even use his hand without it causing pain. I started trying to get more comfortable, using tampons, gradually adjusting, and after about a month, we were finally able to be physically close. It wasn't as painful as before, but it still didn't feel good. It felt more uncomfortable than anything else. Fast forward a year and a half later, and I'm now with my current partner. The first time we were together, it actually felt good. I was so happy and thought maybe my past discomfort was just about my ex. But as time went on and we became more active, the same pain returned. It doesn't feel like burning. It's more like trying to fit something in that just doesn't want to go. I end up feeling terrible, especially when I'm the one who initiates it and then have to stop because it becomes unbearable. Sometimes I cry from the frustration and guilt, especially because I want him to feel good too. I've tried exploring on my own and we've done plenty of foreplay, but sometimes things move too fast. I think part of the issue is using protection and also not being fully ready in terms of arousal. Still, I feel like something isn't right. I've never experienced pleasure from this type of connection, and I'm beginning to wonder if I ever will. I really want to find a solution, or at least understand why this keeps happening. Story 18. I'm a straight man. I do have a healthy drive and strong desires. I enjoy time alone and have fantasies that I like thinking about. But when it comes to being intimate with a partner, it just feels awkward, unfulfilling, and like effort rather than pleasure. I've never experienced a release during intimacy with someone else, simply because I don't find the act itself exciting. I even struggle to stay interested in the moment, because I find the experience emotionally distant from what actually excites me. Throughout my life, my imagination has revolved around everything except the traditional aspects of intimacy. Even when I'm alone, I'm rarely thinking about the act itself. Instead, it's always alternative scenarios or themes that spark my interest. I think this disconnect comes from how I was raised. I was taught that anything related to physical expression was something to avoid or feel ashamed of. That influence stayed with me and possibly shaped the way I connect now. What makes things more complicated is that I'm married. I have been for several years. My spouse and I are strong in many areas of our relationship. We connect deeply in life, values, and friendship. But our physical relationship is difficult. She prefers a more traditional connection, and I do want to be close with her. But my mind only engages when I imagine the themes that resonate with me personally. Even then, it's difficult to find fulfillment through physical closeness alone. When we are intimate, I often imagine those fantasy scenarios just to stay focused and present for her. Afterward, once she feels satisfied, I quietly finish by myself. It leaves me feeling emotionally disappointed. I don't know how to fix this part of our connection, and I'm not sure what to do next. Story 19. I, 21F, have been with my boyfriend, 22M, for about 4.5 years now. In the beginning, especially during the first year, our connection was incredible. We couldn't keep our hands off each other and would be physically close every time we met, sometimes even multiple times a day. It was passionate, exciting, and made me feel truly desired. But as time went on, things changed. My interest remained high, but his seemed to decrease significantly. We still see each other about 3 to 4 times a week, but now we're only physically close, maybe once or twice a week. He says he becomes sore or too sensitive to be active on consecutive days, so even when we spend more time together, it usually doesn't happen. He occasionally makes an exception, but it's rare. That wasn't the case 3 years ago, when he would initiate daily. I find myself initiating most of the time now, but I've learned to hold back because I don't want to feel rejected. Still, the desire is there constantly. I crave that connection. I often keep quiet because I don't want him to feel pressured or guilty. But inside, it leaves me feeling unwanted, even a little ashamed for wanting him so much. It's hard to admit that. A while ago, during a dry spell, I asked if something was going on. I wondered if he was distracted or losing interest, or if maybe he just didn't find me attractive anymore. He said no to all of that, but I didn't get a clear explanation. We haven't really talked about it since. On top of that, he doesn't compliment me like he used to. Strangely enough, I get more compliments from people I don't know, at work or just out, than I do from the person I love, and that's been affecting my confidence. I care deeply for him. He's my first for everything, and I still see a future with him. We've talked about that future, we've even made plans, but I'm worried that the longer we ignore this issue, the more serious it could become. I don't want something like this to pull us apart, but I also don't want to keep feeling so distant in this part of our relationship. How serious can this become if it goes unresolved for years? And more importantly, how can I talk to him about it without making him feel blamed or pressured? I just want to feel close to him again, both physically and emotionally. Story 20. I've recently begun to process a lot of trauma related to what I went through in my childhood, particularly involving my mother, which left me emotionally scarred and afraid to date women. For a long time, that fear led me into a very chaotic period of my life where I engaged in many casual encounters with men. At the time, I convinced myself that I enjoyed it, but I've since realized that what I was really drawn to was the feeling of being used or controlled. It wasn't about genuine attraction. I've repressed my feelings toward women for years, partly because everyone in my life knew me as the gay best friend. I haven't told any of my friends how I really feel now, but I'm starting to believe that I may be straight, or at least bishul with a strong preference for women. I'm 20, but in many ways I feel like I'm starting over. I'm allowing myself to look at women differently, not just as friends, but as people I could love and feel drawn to. It feels like I'm experiencing genuine attraction for the first time, and honestly, it's terrifying. I have so many questions and anxieties, but no one to talk to about it. I never had a father figure growing up, so I feel completely lost. I'm soft-spoken, gentle, and have never been in a position of confidence when it comes to intimacy. I've never led, never initiated, and I don't even know how to begin learning. There's a fear that no woman would want to be with me if they knew about my past. I worry they'd assume I'm not sincere or that I don't truly care for them because of how others have seen me before. I fear being judged, or worse, misunderstood. Lately, I've been having dreams and thoughts about being close to a woman, but I have no real experience with what that's like. My imagination fixates on the simplest things: kissing, what it would feel like to hold someone close, or even the smallest ways I might bring her joy. These feel so new and innocent to me that I sometimes feel childish or embarrassed. I've even thought about hiring someone just to learn, but I know I wouldn't be able to handle it emotionally. It would overwhelm me. I've also been afraid to watch anything explicit because I never want to see women as less than human. I know too well how damaging that can feel, and while I've had physical reactions and started exploring myself again, it feels intense and new, and I'm afraid of relying on that as a substitute for genuine connection. I don't know what women enjoy or find attractive. I don't know how to compliment them sincerely, how to ask them out respectfully, or how to build a connection that feels mutual. I wish I could say I was new to intimacy, but the truth is I've had experiences. I just never felt loved or empowered in them. I hear people talk about how thoughtful their partners are, how they care about each other's pleasure, and I feel behind, like I'm too old to not know these things. I wish I had someone, anyone, to guide me through this. A mentor, a father figure, someone to show me how to care for someone else in the right way. I sometimes wonder if I should just remain single because of how lost I feel. But deep down, I want to believe that it's possible for me to connect with someone. I want to believe that it's not too late, that I can one day love and be loved in return. If anyone has been through something like this, or has advice, or even just a few kind words, I'd really appreciate it. I just want to be told that I'm not broken, that it's okay to be where I'm at, and that someday I'll be able to give and receive love in the way I've always hoped for. Story 21. We've been together for almost 3 years, and when I met her, I was coming out of a very difficult breakup. In that previous relationship, intimacy only happened maybe 2 or 3 times a year for about 3 years. So by the time I started this new relationship, I was feeling extremely repressed. The first few months, maybe 3 to 5, were intense. It was the most passionate and uninhibited experience I'd ever had. The kind of connection I always wanted, but in hindsight, I now realize it was heavily fueled by emotional turbulence and, unfortunately, some substance use on my part. Once the emotional high from the breakup faded and the substances stopped having the same effect, I came down from that primal rush. I didn't have the same wild energy on demand anymore, but the desire was still there. I'm sharing this to be honest about my challenges and the dependency I felt. I've always wanted to be the kind of person who could bring that level of energy into our connection, but it's hard for me to reach that mindset completely sober. It's difficult to relax. Back then I felt free, like a wall had come down, allowing me to be myself in ways I never had before. And she was incredibly responsive. We had deep conversations outside of intimacy, and for a while it felt like nothing was holding me back. But that freedom didn't last. For her, though, nothing changed. She still has a high level of desire and connection, completely sober. And while that's incredibly attractive and flattering, It also intimidates me. I start to feel like I'm not enough or like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. Sometimes I fear that she fell for the version of me who was emotionally overwhelmed and uninhibited, rather than the person I am on a normal day. We did have a really intense night not too long ago, and during the moment, she said something about how much she craved that kind of wild connection. She quickly corrected herself and said she also liked the other side of me, but the comment stuck with me. I've opened up to her about this. I told her how difficult it is for me to maintain that energy consistently. She reassured me that everything is okay, but I'm not sure how deeply she understood what I was trying to express. I don't know if she realizes how much emotional and mental energy it takes for me to get there. For her, it all just seems natural. Story 22. Around 7 months ago, I, 24F, and my ex, 26M, broke up after 4 years of dating. He was my first everything, first kiss, first intimate experience. And during our relationship, we were very active. We explored different things together, mutual affection, different positions, and we were generally connected physically. That part of the relationship was consistent, even though other areas were not great. Now, for the first time as an adult, I'm single. I recently joined dating apps and have met a few people. I've kissed a few, but I recently found someone I genuinely like. 28 million. We have a lot in common. We connect on so many levels. He communicates well, and he takes me on actual dates, which feels refreshing. Online and through messages, we seem to be very compatible physically. We share similar interests, and there's clear attraction. When we're together, there's plenty of affection. We make out, we touch each other, and there's clearly chemistry. The only downside is that in person, he doesn't last very long. Whether it's through affection, touch, or during intimacy itself, it ends quickly. At first, I thought it might be nerves or just a long dry spell, but it's happened multiple times now. What makes this more challenging is that, while he talks about wanting to please me, mentioning things like wanting to explore my body, help me feel good, etc., once he finishes, that's it. He quickly moves on, changes clothes, and acts like it's time to move forward with the day or evening. Recently, he texted me the day after and apologized for not lasting long. He asked if I felt good, and I told him that while it was pleasant, I didn't reach the level of satisfaction he was asking about. He apologized again and asked how he could improve, and I explained that I'd like more attention beforehand, to be touched and engaged with before he finishes, so we both feel good. We went on another really nice date afterward, but again, the same thing happened. He gave me minimal attention, maybe 30 seconds, and then things moved quickly. The whole experience lasted maybe 3 minutes. I'm wondering how I can communicate this more effectively. He seems to care and wants me to enjoy myself, but I don't think he fully understands how to put that into practice. Should I be more direct? How do I say what I need without coming off as too critical or making him feel like he's failing? This isn't a deal breaker for me, but I'd really like to give this relationship a solid chance. Since it's still early days, I feel like now is the right time to talk openly and try to improve things. Story 23. So I'm 19F and my best friend, also 19F, super chill, true crime podcast addict, and I are basically like sisters. We've had sleepovers at her house since forever. Her dad, 45 million, tall, with a graying beard and that rugged outdoorsy look, is always around doing things like fixing stuff or grilling burgers. I've had this silly little crush on him since high school. Never acted on it, just a dumb thought that would pop into my head sometimes. Last night we planned another sleepover. Movies, snacks, the usual. Her mom was working a night shift, and my best friend fell asleep early, completely knocked out on the floor after a few too many sparkling waters. I was in a loose t-shirt and sleep shorts, just lounging comfortably, scrolling through my phone. Not really sleepy yet. I heard footsteps downstairs and figured it was her dad. I tiptoed down to grab a glass of water, heart racing for no real reason. He was in the kitchen, dressed in sweats and a fitted t-shirt, looking tired but still kind of effortlessly cool. He asked if we were still awake, and I told him she was already out cold. We ended up chatting for a bit, just casual talk, mostly about how college has been stressing me out lately. He said something like, "You're too young to be carrying that kind of weight," and lightly touched my arm. I felt a rush of emotion I didn't expect. There was this moment, quiet, slightly tense, where I leaned in a little closer and quietly asked, "Have you ever thought about me?" He paused, then admitted, "More than I probably should." That response made my heart flip. He glanced toward the stairs and I followed him without a word. In his room, it was dim and smelled faintly like his cologne. The room was tidy, simple. He closed the door gently behind us and we kissed. His beard was scratchy and his hands felt warm as they slid under the hem of my shirt. I whispered that we had to be quiet. My best friend's room was just down the hall. He nodded and everything stayed soft, unspoken. He touched me carefully like he knew he shouldn't, but couldn't stop himself. I responded just as silently, pulled into something I didn't fully understand, but didn't want to escape. His presence was overwhelming, but comforting at the same time. Every move was slow, steady, as though we were both trying not to break the silence of the house. Afterward, we lay there, breathing heavy but quiet, not saying much. He reached for something to clean up, but I told him not to worry. I slipped back into my sleep shorts and tiptoed down the hallway, heart still racing. My best friend was still asleep, none the wiser. I crawled back under the covers next to her, the room calm and dim. My mind was spinning with everything that had just happened. It felt surreal, like something out of a dream I wasn't sure I should have had. Story 24. She's been coming over to our place for months now. I never really saw her that way. I always thought she was funny and sweet, but I was in a relationship the whole time. Of course, things shifted after the breakup. I found myself spending more time in the living room. That's where she usually hung out. I started to notice things. How she moved, how she smiled. She'd walk into the kitchen in one of those oversized shirts and ask if I wanted anything, bending to check the fridge like it was no big deal. Maybe I was just imagining it. Maybe 2 weeks of being single had started to play tricks on me. My last girlfriend was confident, full of energy, and we had a strong connection. It used to be nearly daily between us. So maybe it wasn't about her at all. Maybe I was just feeling the silence more than usual. Still, I didn't want to leave the room, especially not when it was just the two of us. Me and my roommate's girlfriend. She was into anime, the whole soft voice thing, and I'd never been around someone like that before. We were watching some quirky anime series when her boyfriend walked in, gave her a quick kiss, and headed out for his shift. She called out goodbye, and then it was just us again, casual in pajamas, chatting. I mentioned something about how surprisingly suggestive anime could be, and she just giggled. "Do you want me to turn it off?" and she asked. I said no, but the longer we sat there, the more I started remembering how things used to be with my ex, the way we connected, especially that last night at the beach in my car. Messy, passionate, unforgettable. Sitting there, I caught myself sneaking glances at her. Her legs were tucked up, and I noticed a flash of pink fabric. My thoughts wandered. It felt like some part of me was sure she knew what she was doing, how she was sitting, the softness in her voice. "Are you okay?" she asked. I blinked out of it. "Yeah, sorry. Just thinking." She gave me a curious look. "What were you thinking about?" That smile made me look at her differently. I realized I'd never actually paid this much attention to her. She was comforting in a strange way. Curly hair, no makeup, just real. And I was sitting right next to her, just a few feet apart. I felt something stirring, but I knew better than to act on it. "I was thinking about my ex." Her expression changed, maybe a little disappointed. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, and reached out to touch my shoulder. "It's okay, it's probably for the best. But I'll admit, there are things I miss." She smirked a little. "Yeah? Like what?" I hesitated. Maybe I shouldn't say. She looked down for a moment, and I caught her glance at my lap. I wasn't hiding anything, but I also wasn't drawing attention to it. Still, there she was, facing me, sitting close. I didn't need to look at her to feel the energy shift. "Come on," she said, her hand still on my shoulder. "You can tell me." I gave a small smile. "I miss physical connection." Her eyes flickered. "Yeah?" she asked softly. "Yeah." I turned my eyes back to the screen. "I miss how it felt to just be close to someone. Intimate, trusting." She nodded slowly. "That must be really hard." Her voice was gentle, sincere. She meant it. She let her hand rest on my shoulder again, warm and reassuring. We were both quiet for a while, eyes locked. There was something unspoken between us. She didn't pull away. I leaned back slightly, and my body responded to everything she wasn't saying. She sat there still, facing me, It felt like we were both waiting for something. She eventually looked away, back at the screen. Some wild scene about a professor and an alien or something, but I couldn't focus. She was still next to me. Her posture shifted, her body language relaxed. Her fingers moved ever so slightly, and I felt them hover near my leg. She didn't say anything. Just that small movement, then a pause, then another. Her nails were painted a dark purple. I adjusted just slightly, the faintest signal. And then her fingers touched my leg. Not by accident, she held them there. My breath caught, but I didn't react. She stayed quiet, eyes on the screen, pretending nothing had changed. Then her fingers shifted forward just a bit, slow and deliberate. I felt her hand rest more fully on my thigh. Still no words, just quiet understanding. The air between us was thick, forbidden maybe, but real. She moved her hand again, gently, testing the waters, tracing lines she probably shouldn't. I didn't stop her. I let her keep going, let the moment unfold without a single word. Her eyes never left the screen, but I could tell she felt everything just as much as I did. Eventually, her fingers crept higher, her movements bold but measured. And then she looked down just once, watching her own hand. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I didn't want to stop her. She was silent, focused. I felt her breathing shift. And when she finally looked up at me, her expression said more than words ever could. Then her phone buzzed, a message. She froze, glanced down, read it, and looked back at me. It's him. He's coming home early. Asked if I want anything. She didn't look scared, just calm. I told him I want donuts, she said, her hand still resting on my leg. She hit send, then looked up at me again, her eyes steady. We've got about 10, maybe 15 minutes. Story 25. I wasn't expecting anything that night. She was a friend of a friend. Cool energy, kind of wild but laid back. She needed a place to crash after a night out, and I told her she was welcome. No expectations, just trying to be kind. She showed up wearing an oversized t-shirt, no pants. Just that effortless look like comfort was all that mattered. When she bent over to take her shoes off, the shirt lifted a bit, and I caught the briefest glimpse of bare skin. It short-circuited something in my brain, but I tried to play it cool. I set up a mattress in the corner and headed to my room. Sometime around 3 a.m., I felt someone sliding into my bed. No hesitation, no announcement, just warmth pressing up against my back, her arm slipping under the covers like it belonged there. Then in a whisper, she asked something simple but electric. Can I stay here? I was barely awake, still groggy, but fully aware of her presence now. She moved closer, her breath against my neck, and the way she leaned into me made the air between us shift completely. She didn't wait for an invitation, but something about it didn't feel rushed, just natural, like this had been waiting to happen all along. She adjusted the blanket over us and nestled in beside me, her body sinking to mine. It wasn't just physical, it was something about her energy, the quiet confidence, the way she breathed like she was exactly where she wanted to be. Her touch was light at first, then more certain. There were no words after that, just a rhythm that felt unspoken and instinctive. She moved slowly, deliberately, like every motion had intention. Her hand slipped into mine, and I responded without hesitation. Her hair brushed against my cheek as she rested her head on my shoulder. I could feel her heart racing. It matched mine. She murmured something I couldn't fully hear, but the meaning was clear in how she moved, how she held me, how she responded to every small gesture. There was a moment when we both just stopped, holding each other in silence, the tension hanging heavy in the air, but also strangely comforting. Her breathing slowed as she rested her head against my chest, and for a few long minutes, it felt like the world had completely disappeared outside that room. She didn't say much after that, just curled up close, like the moment had given her exactly what she needed. She fell asleep in my arms, and I stayed awake for a while, listening to her breathing, wondering if she would remember any of this in the morning. When the sun came up, she stirred quietly, got dressed without a word, and turned to me with a small smile. No explanation, no pressure, just a soft, thanks for the bed, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Then she left, and I lay there wondering if I had just dreamed the whole thing. And yeah, if she ever needed a place to crash again, I wouldn't hesitate. Story 26. S and M have been good friends of ours for a long time. We usually meet up for drinks and talk about everything. Life, work, whatever's on our minds. That night, we chose an older spot in town, quiet, familiar, with good music playing low in the background. As we all arrived, I noticed S give M a playful gesture, one that caught my attention. It wasn't overt, but there was something about the way he touched her lower back that made me look twice. M always knows how to wear confidence. That night, she had on a pair of denim shorts that fit just right, just loose enough to hint, never shout. I couldn't help but notice. We grabbed our drinks, took some shots, and M pointed to the upstairs loft area, so we made our way up. It had soft lighting and some couches perfect for small groups. We all settled in comfortably, conversation flowing, laughter easy. As the night went on, I began to notice the way M was looking at my wife. It wasn't casual. There was something charged in those glances. She shifted slightly in her seat, her posture relaxed, one leg draped loosely. There was a kind of quiet invitation in the way she moved, and my wife seemed to feel it too. I could tell from the way she suddenly inhaled, that subtle sound she makes when something excites her, but she's trying not to show it. M's hand rested on her own thigh, fingers brushing lightly. It wasn't obvious, but it was enough for those paying attention. The mood between us all had definitely changed. Something unspoken was hanging in the air. Meanwhile, S was a bit tipsy, swaying to the music, completely unaware of the energy building just feet away from him. M leaned back, her eyes locked on my wife, the connection between them growing stronger by the second. My wife reached for my leg under the table, casually resting her hand on my thigh. I could feel her pulse quicken through her touch. M glanced at her hand, then back at my wife's eyes. It was like the two of them were having their own silent conversation. Another drink came, and any hesitation we had left behind started to fade. My wife leaned in, whispering something that sent a jolt through me. I nodded, barely able to speak. Her hand slowly began to move, responding to the electricity between all three of us. M's focus never left my wife as the tension between them grew more intense. Her breathing deepened, and I could tell she was caught in the same current we were. She adjusted her shirt slightly, enough to show the curve of her shoulder, her expression soft but burning with something more. There was no shame in her gaze, just quiet confidence. I could feel my own heartbeat in my ears. M's posture shifted again, her attention still fixed on my wife. My wife's hand pressed more firmly into my leg, and M simply whispered something to her, soft, direct, and completely unforgettable. My wife smiled slightly and responded with a look that needed no translation. Moments later, M leaned back, clearly affected by everything going on, but still composed. She reached up, running a hand through her hair, her lips slightly parted. I watched as my wife's expression turned tender, yet full of unspoken mischief. We sat like that for a while, all of us breathing in sync, the night folding over us like a secret. S, too far gone in the music and drinks, mumbled along to the lyrics, completely unaware. Eventually, we finished the last round, gently nudged S awake, and helped him back downstairs. Outside, in the soft warmth of the night air, M came over to each of us separately, gave us slow, deliberate hugs, just long enough to leave something behind. As she stepped closer to me, she leaned in and said something quietly that I'll never forget. Then she turned to my wife and shared a smile that only they understood. The next afternoon, S called to apologize for falling asleep early. He joked about missing the fun and casually mentioned that M had been hoping the night would turn into something more. I laughed and said the night was great regardless, told him to thank M for a lovely evening, and in the back of my mind I already knew, there may be a next time.